Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. One of the most exciting topics to talk about is communication at the workplace. Whether you're joining the workforce for the first time or just looking to improve your digital communication skills, learning how to write a professional email is a critical skill. In this video, I'm going to discuss what's an email, the reasons for writing an email, and its advantages. I would be focusing on how to write a bad news email, its format, and when to write one. In addition, I'm going to show an example of a bad news email. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you some tips on sending and receiving emails. So come on, guys, let's get started. Okay, let's define email. Email is short for electronic mail. Email is information stored on a computer that's exchanged between two users over telecommunications. More plainly, email is a message that may contain text, files, images, or other attachments sent through a network to a specified individual or group of individuals. Emails are flexible and can be used for giving instructions. It also serves as documentation, providing confirmation, as well as communicating rules and procedures. You may also send emails if you want to make recommendations or provide a status update or make an inquiry. Now, why do people send emails? Well, for obvious reasons. One reason is that emails are delivered extremely fast as compared to snail mails or the traditional post. Another reason, emails can be sent 24/7. That's 365 days a year. And you can send emails anywhere, anytime, as long as you have an internet connection. And most importantly, emails are cheap. Sending emails is actually free as long as you've got the internet connection. Although email is a valuable tool, it creates some challenges for writers. Miscommunication can easily occur when people have different expectations about the messages that they send and receive. Well, email is used for many different purposes. Yes, email is used for many different purposes. One, to exchange information. We write emails to contact our family and friends. We also write emails to communicate with teachers, professors, and supervisors, especially if we want to request or send information. Another reason to write an email is to relay important updates. We usually send emails to keep our team members in the loop. And finally, we send emails to recap an important meeting. It's a best practice to send the minutes of meeting to all members after each meeting. As we all know, email is a great way to connect not only with people but also with industries. Every day, companies use email to communicate with their employees and customers. By writing emails, companies are able to deliver private and transactional messages that help increase customer retention and satisfaction. Depending on your purpose, the message you sent through email will differ in its formality, audience, and desired outcome. Perhaps you'll ask the question, when are bad news emails sent? Well, I can think of two reasons. When company sales drop, they are bound to cut or reduce expenses, or sometimes lay off employees. Second reason, when certain employee does not meet the company's expectation, evidenced by his performance, the company decides to end or terminate the employment. In these cases, bad news emails are sent. Now, how are bad news email written? There are some tips on how to write bad news email. The writer should empathize with the recipient. Another thing, he should provide reassurance to people getting the email. The message should be clear and concise, and the writer should provide further information to help people understand the bad news message. And finally, the writer should provide the person with an opportunity to discuss the situation. Moving on, let's look at the bad news email structure. As you can see, I've divided it into two. The breakdown of the different parts of the message and the location. In writing a bad news email, we always start with the subject header of the message or the subject line. A subject line or a subject header is a short phrase that summarizes the reason for your message or the goal of your communication. It's important to include a subject line when sending a professional email so the reader knows exactly what to do. After the subject header follows the greeting. Now, the greeting is also known as salutation. And these two parts, the subject header or subject line and the greeting, are located before the message. Now, after the greeting follows paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 contains the buffer, which is a neutral introduction to the topic of the message. And after the buffer follows an explanation of the situation where facts are presented. After paragraph 1 follows paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 states the bad news. It also gives more explanation and instructions on what the reader must do are also included in paragraph 2. Now, after paragraph 2 follows paragraph 3. It contains a positive note of goodwill and a reference to the future. Now, after paragraph 3 follows the closing. Here's a good example of a bad news email. Try to read it and identify the different parts of the email message. Can you find the buffer? What is the bad news message? What are the 3 things that the staff must do? Can you tell the positive note of goodwill and the reference to the future? Now let's have a recap of the parts of a bad news email. In writing a bad news email, we always start with a subject header or a subject line. It is a short phrase that summarizes the reason for your email or the goal of your communication. After the subject header follows the greetings or the salutation. A greeting can be formal or informal. An example of a formal greeting would be, Dear Mr. Smith. An informal greeting could be, Hi John. After the greeting follows the buffer. A buffer is a neutral introduction to the topic of the message. After the buffer follows an explanation of the situation. After the explanation of the situation follows the bad news statement. After the bad news statement, more explanations are given and instructions on what the readers should do. After that follows the last paragraph, which contains the note of goodwill and a reference to the future. And the last part would be the closing. Closing could be formal or informal. Most common closing are regards, sincerely, respectfully, among others. So guys, finally we've come to the bonus part. And as promised, here are some tips on writing emails. Tip number 1. Check carefully the two CC and BCC fields before sending an email. Make sure that you only share or forward emails to people who are directly connected to your department. Mistakes with email addresses are a common cause of privacy breach. Tip number 2. Secure personal email accounts by setting up and using second factor authentication. Tip number 3. Do not open attachments to emails from unknown sources or unexpected senders. And finally, minimize the impact of spam by setting up and using a separate email address for online shopping, competitions, and discount offers. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you learned something from this video. Please subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos. And don't forget to like and share this video. God bless and see you in my next video.